Thank you for joining me on another episode of Better Than I Found It, the podcast all things college golf. This is Mike McGraw, the men's golf coach at Baylor University. Today's guest on Better Than I Found It is former Texas A&M golfer Matt Van Zandt. As is the case with many of my guests, Matt describes the impact his father had on his golf as a young player. He also tells us what made JT Higgins, his college coach, so successful. We reminisce about the 2009 NCAA championship in Inverness, which his team won. Now, Matt's role in that team was very unique, and I think went way deeper than just the scores he posted. His leadership skills are apparent, and his humility quite palpable. We also talk about his time with College Golf Fellowship following his playing days. You'll really like this interview with Matt. Okay, Better Than I Found It listeners, I've got a special guest that I want you to welcome to the podcast today. Matt Van Zandt, former Texas A&M golfer. And Matt is a dear friend of mine, somebody I've known for a long, long time. Competed against Matt, but also have been walked arm in arm with him in his career after college. So, Matt, thanks for joining me today. It's great to have you.
Coach, it's awesome to be here. Have a high respect for you and a deep love for you. So this is a great honor for me.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know who Matt Van Zandt is. I know Texas A&M people do, certainly in the golf program. People that grew up in your era of junior golf know who you are in Texas because you were one of the better players in Texas. So those people do. But if you talk about people maybe listening to this podcast or a modern day junior golfer or a parent of a modern day junior golfer, they're not going to know who you are. But you have a very interesting history in college golf that I want to talk about. And your role that you played on your golf team was pretty unique. And you actually played on a national championship team. I was there that week when it happened. So I guess if we're going to start this, we probably ought to go back to your junior career. I remember getting an email from you when I was at Oklahoma State. I think I was the assistant coach the first time you sent an email. And it came straight from Mike Holder's computer to my computer because but I do remember your name because it was unusual. Yeah. And let's just talk about your junior career.
Yeah. So, I grew up in the suburbs of Houston. My dad's a dentist and loves the game and got me into the game at an early age. And, I would say I had moderate success. I always encourage young guys. And say my first high school tournament, I remember I shot 77-85 the first tournament I ever played in, and I thought that was like really good. So there's still time to improve even when you get into high school. But, I had moderate success, I would say, when it came down to recruiting time. I was kind of a kid that was begging for a spot on a bigger team, and I had kind of all the offers to the kind of mid-major Texas schools. And but I really wanted to go to a big school, and my brother, who is almost 5 years older than me, he was at A&M, and so there was a draw to A&M, and I ended up getting essentially a recruited walk-on position. I got a little bit of scholarship, but I would say the highlights of my junior career was really around my high school team. I played on a really good high school team, and we won the state championship in 2003. And Lance Lopez was a teammate of mine who was best player in Texas. And another guy named Drew Allensbach who ended up going to Indiana. And so we had a really good and competitive high school team. And I just kind of always, I was good enough to get recruited, but I was not in kind of the upper echelon of the recruiting cycle for the big schools.
No, but you were a competitive kid in probably one of the most competitive junior golf states in the United States of America. So you obviously were doing pretty well. And speaking to that is you had a lot of offers to mid-majors. There was no doubt coaches wanted you to play on their team. So talk about that recruitment to Texas A&M. How did you talk JT Higgins into that? Because that's not always easy because it may not cost anything or scholarship wise too much, but it's also another human being you're responsible for. How'd you talk him into that?
Well, I remember getting, and I joke with JT to this day about this, but I in some ways say that I was a way to Lance Lopez, but for JT Higgins. But I remember going on a recruiting trip and being very excited. And, for a kid who was probably deeply insecure, I remember sitting in front of him in that scholarship conversation and him saying he was going to give us $800 a year in book scholarship, and me feeling like somebody just valued me at $800. And, that was a tough pill to swallow. But I actually ended up going and looking at another school, University of Arkansas, and had a bigger scholarship to go there. And it was a wonderful place. But if I was honest, I really wanted to go to A&M. And I feel like I liked JT from the start. And obviously A&M was at really the beginning of building their golf program out. JT had been there, I think, it had been his third year there, I believe. And honestly, it was a good fit. And I loved the school. I would have loved to have gone to the school even if I didn't play golf, which I think is an important part of the
That's
process.
a good point you bring up. I usually ask a recruit and his parents that in the recruiting process, like if I wasn't in this office and we didn't have a very good golf program, is Baylor a place you might like to go? And sometimes if the answer is no, that might not be very good recruiting because he might think, well, maybe he really doesn't want to come here. But that's good that you bring that up. Kids need to look at it like the university is what you're going there for, that experience too.
Yeah, and I mean, also, Coach had already had some big recruits, and I mean, Bobby Gates had committed in my class, and he was truthfully one of the best recruits in the whole country. And then Martin Pillar was obviously one of the best recruits in Texas, and so I was excited at the possibility of joining that group of guys. And so yeah, I feel really fortunate. And then obviously to go to a place where my brother was going to be something that I was excited about.
Well, you mentioned a couple of your teammates, Martin Pillar, who's played pro golf for a long time, Bobby Gates played pro golf. And by the way, that was one of the great recruiting jobs in the history of college golf. He's from Gainesville, Florida, and Buddy Alexander was the coach, and he's one of the best players in the country.
Yeah.
And JT got him to come to College Station. That's pretty amazing. Not sure we'll see a recruiting job much better than that one. But you mentioned those two guys, but you had a bunch of other really good teammates. So we're going to kind of meander our way through your team while you were there. And I'm going to mention an article that Ron Balicki wrote, the late, great Ron Balicki, one of the great, truly great sports journalists I've ever even seen in my life. He covered college golf with like a fever pitch all the time. He loved college golf, and he wrote a really neat article about you. And I know you had mixed emotions about it, but at the time. But anyway, let's talk about your teammates. You guys, you mentioned two already that ended up playing professional golf.
So I mean, starting off, I think I played with a guy named Andrew Parr, who nobody probably knows, but he was a pretty darn good college player. But more, he was a great leader and a wonderful, like, his work ethic was impeccable. And he was somebody that I looked up to. In his senior year, he played pretty darn good. And then obviously Bobby Gates, what we mentioned earlier, Bobby kind of hit the ground running and pretty much immediately jumped into the lineup as a freshman. And Martin had a lot of success early. And then the next year Coach had landed Bronson Burgoon, who had been a friend of mine for a long time. And Bronson ended up going on to be a first team All-American, I think just his senior year, but may have been he was a multiple time All-American. And Bronson is still playing on the PGA Tour right now. And Bobby played for, I believe, something like 5 years on the tour or 6 years on the big tour, but 8 years total. And Martin played for like 14 years and just recently hung him up. And then we had Andrea Pavon, who was from Rome, Italy, and came over, and he's on the European Tour right now. He's won at least once, I think maybe twice. And then we had Nacho Elvira, who was from Spain, and he came over, and he was a spectacular player, and he won on he's won on the European Tour, I believe, just once, but he lost a playoff this last week. And Conrad Schindler went out and he played on the big tour, I believe 1 year, but multiple years on the Korn Ferry Tour. John Hurley played on the Korn Ferry Tour 1 year, longest guy in college golf. Truly,
he came on a visit to Oklahoma State, and I looked at him. First of all, he looked like he must have been a football player. He did not look like a golfer.
Yeah.
And he absolutely bombed the ball in college. It was crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, looking back, I know people. I joke with people. I feel like I get a lot of credit that I don't deserve for the success of my team, and I'm not trying to say I was a terrible college player, but I was really surrounded by. I was surrounded by really good golfers, and I don't even realize that. I don't think I realized that at the time as much as I realize that now.
Well, I think it's hard to ever realize anything as you're going through it. I mean, like right now, there's something that's going on in my life that I think is either great or bad or whatever, but I'm not going to realize it for years how it really was in my life.
Yeah.
Um, but you mentioned that okay, you just mentioned all those tour players. I don't think you missed anybody. I think I remember every one of those players, and some of them are still playing today. But Ron Balicki wrote an article. Ron was an amazing journalist. He
Yeah.
was phenomenal, and his feature articles were incredible because he actually captured the person every time. I just think I don't know anybody that does a better job of it. But he wrote an article. Tell me about that article and how you reacted to it, sort of when it came out.
Yeah, so Ron and I had developed a good friendship in college golf, and I couldn't agree more that Ron really tried to capture the person of the college golfer, not just the results. And he and I had built a friendship and talked often at different tournaments. And he didn't even tell me he was going to write this article, but he wrote a really long article around the national championship. And I can't remember what day it came out, but it was sometime, it could even been between rounds or something like that. But and essentially the gist of the article was that sometimes people contribute other things than just golf scores to the team. And it was an honoring article to me. I was, and you, what you're alluding to was in some ways, and even still now, Sean Martin and I joke about this because it was somewhat also pointing out the mediocre golf that I was playing. But I have always enjoyed leadership. I value teams. I really took to heart the team atmosphere in college, and I bet even my college teammates, they may listen to this and make fun of me and remember back to the silly things I did. But I mean, I really took an effort to try to create camaraderie on the team, to do, to win together, also to lose together, to be punished together. And I had the honor of being named whatever you call captain. I think that's what we called it at even in my when I was a sophomore, and just was able to be just a leader on the team in a way that wasn't just about the bottom line, the golf score I shot at the end of the day. And it was a super honoring article, and I loved Ron for that. But I think what you're talking about, the conflicting part, was there was a deep insecurity at times about my golf scores and wishing that I was better. And I mean, looking back, I definitely wasn't as bad as I felt like I was in the moment. I mean, I played probably half the time on A&M. I finished in the top 5 college events a few times, and so I did have some success, but I mean, relative to kind of the guys I was walking with, it just felt like I was just a bump on the log or something.
Well, when a coach does as good a job as JT did of amassing that much talent, it's pretty easy to get lost in the shuffle there. But I had a player about your generation, just a little younger than you, named Michael Miller. Michael's
Yep.
dad,
Okay.
Lindy, had played golf at Oklahoma State. Literally, I say that any golf historian would put him in your top 10 all-time collegiate players, not professionals, but in college. He's a top
Yep.
10 guy. He's that good. And his son Michael wasn't as good, but he did finish third in the state high school championship. And he wanted to walk on at Oklahoma State, and I took him. And I look back on it, and he was probably the MVP on that team for 4 years because with all those egos running around there, and there were a lot of them, great players with egos, Michael knew how to bring him down to, we're just human beings here and we're just buddies. And he was the glue that held that team together. And when I looked at you from afar, other than you were playing a little bit better golf than Michael was,
Mm-hmm.
other than that, you guys filled the same role. I
Yeah.
know what you were doing for that team at A&M. It was so easy to see, and you had such a dynamic personality. So what I want the listeners out here to get is you have other ways to contribute other than just shooting 68, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, honestly, those things you're going to be able to carry on much longer than you're going to be carry on your golf game because, thankfully, when I was a sophomore in high school, I became a Christian, and that really changed the trajectory of my life to where I think I've always loved people, but I think that changed from where I used to love people to really in almost in a selfish way. I wanted it I wanted to gain their approval to I began to actually be able to serve people, and I wanted to see other people succeed. And so that just kind of set me off on a trajectory that I till to this day. I mean, I seek and want to honor and serve and help people progress, and whether it's their career or their financial situation, like I do a lot right now, or I still meet with and spend some time with some of these young high school golfers who are local here in Houston, and just try to help them navigate. And I genuinely just like doing that. And that's not anything that I'm never going to age out of that. I will age out of golf. I'm not as relevant in golf as I used to be. And that's okay. But to me, that is where the sweet part of life is. And if you ask me, would you rather have Ron Blicky have written an article about that, or would you rather him written about, how great my golf was, even though maybe I wasn't, I didn't care for people very well. I mean, in my sober moments, I would obviously want him to write about my character, and I want to be that kind of man, even though I know I still fall short drastically. But I even had lunch today with an older guy, not an older guy, but in his 50s, who has a high school son, and I was just encouraging him and his son, who plays golf and is getting frustrated. Just encouraged him to just remind him of his identity, of who he is as your son, and that you love him. And I just think those are the things that in 50 years, I'm not going to regret having poured my life out over a person. And you know what? I go months without even thinking about the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
It's sweet and it's a great memory, but it didn't like complete my life.
No, and it will never complete your life. I mean, you could win 4 national championships, go on and win 10 majors, and none of that matters if you're not content, and if you're not in that space where you need to be. And for you and I, that's walking our faith and what we believe,
Yeah.
and that type of thing. So, but let's talk about the 2009 NCAA, and
Okay.
I'm going to circle back to what you just talked about mentoring young kids, and because I'm going to ask you a question about coaching right there. But 2009 NCAA, my team was ranked number 1 in the country going in. We had just won the regional by 20. Had been the number 1 team the whole year. Won the stroke play that week by a bunch, and we got beat in the first round of match play.
Yeah.
So that's not the greatest memory, but it reminds me of how humbling this game is, because it
Yeah.
just doesn't matter if you have the best team, you're not always going to win, and we didn't. But
Yeah.
I know that JT felt like they had a chance to do well. I interviewed him on this podcast, and he said, Coach, we going in, we thought we had a chance. And so let's take me back. Give me your vivid memories of that week, short of just the one vivid memory of Bronson Burgoon hitting
Yeah.
a sand wedge out of the rough to a foot. What do you remember about that week?
Well, I do, JT in some ways was somewhat of like a hopeless romantic when it came to our upside. He always truly believed that we could achieve that, and even if maybe he didn't believe it, he would still say it out loud to try to believe it. And so he was very good about casting a high ceiling for our team, and we did. I mean, Bronson had an unbelievable year that year. Andrea, I believe, had a pretty good year, but had kind of been up and down. When we had just had a really competitive team. I mean, I played that week as the number 4 guy, I think, and the guy we left at home was Nacho Elvira, who was, I mean, he's really good.
Now you
And
did something to beat that guy out for the
yeah, I
lineup.
mean, and I mean, it's just funny looking back. I mean, I played really well. I played my best golf my last semester, and so there wasn't really even a time where I think I even finished in the top 10 at regionals that year or something like that. And so I played my best golf coming into that tournament. And, obviously Inverness, amazing golf course, a real test. You can't fake it around there. And we went out and, I don't even remember honestly what we did the first or the second day, like in regards to where we were, but I don't remember anything. We were just kind of hanging around. And what I do remember, and this is where I kind of pick up my memories a little clearer here, is going into the back nine. We were, I believe, out of it. And Conrad Schindler he made a hole in one on the last day. And
you're speaking last day of stroke play.
Last day of stroke play, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then I think he shot 32, maybe 31 on his back nine for us to tie for seventh with Georgia in the stroke play. And then obviously, had we finished eighth, we would have faced you guys, and who knows how that would have gone. Maybe we would have still come out ahead, but that would have been a lot more difficult. But then that went to the fifth man was the tiebreaker. And truthfully, I really only counted one round. I mean, I tied with another guy. I shot, I can't remember, 77, 76, 76 or something like that. I did not play particularly well. But my cumulative score was lower than Adam Mitchell, which is hilarious because he was a Walker Cupper. That guy was unbelievable too.
Runner up in the USAM. He's a great player.
It gets no credit. But because of that, we were the 7th seed and went on to play Arizona State, and you and Georgia was the number 8 seed and went on to play you, which led to one of the greatest matches in the history. I know you came out on the non-favorable side of that, but I was there when Brian and Ricky came down on the 18th hole, and just remember like it was yesterday.
Well, like what Brian did on those last 4 holes was unthinkable. And Ricky played fine on the last 4 holes.
He sure did.
He was 1 under par in those holes, but it wasn't good enough to beat what Brian was doing. But so I walked with you in that final round of stroke play because I'm walking with Peter Uline during the whole week. I walked with Peter the entire week, and you played with Peter the last round. And Peter actually played very well that week. His game had really gotten good by the end of the year. He was playing beautifully, but you got off to a dreadful start, as I recall. I mean, dreadful. Yeah. But you absolutely just fought all day long, and you made some birdies on that back nine. It was like, I don't even remember what you shot, but it could have been 82 or 3 easily, and you salvaged a 75 or 6.
Yeah.
And they used your score. I believe you tied for the score, right?
Yeah, I don't remember which day it was, but I tied for one of the scores. But the bigger thing was the cumulative. My cumulative score was lower than Georgia's.
Yeah, you didn't give up.
Right.
Pretty amazing. But I remember watching that. Say it again.
That's where that would have been most valuable.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys ended up making match play. You played Arizona State in the first match. Who did you play in the second match?
Michigan, which was which was against, they were right down the road since we were in Ohio, and man, they had a lot of people there. And that was crazy because that match came down to my last match on the 18th hole. And I remember being in the fairway, and the Michigan guy was behind me, and he hit it and he flew it into the back bunker, which the back bunker on 18 was dead.
Totally
and
dead.
I just remember thinking, if I could just get this on the green.
And by the way, for a short par 4, it's one of the most different little greens to hit. It's not easy.
It's not easy. And I hit it, I probably had 25 feet in for birdie. And I was like, okay, great. And then he just made a mess of it. He bladed his bunker shot over the green, and then he chipped it back outside of my coin. And he walks up and he just shakes my hand and gives me the match. And I was so nervous. And I was just thinking, thank God I didn't have to putt that. Because there were probably 1,000 people surrounding that green. It was so fun.
I wasn't even aware that your match put you guys into the finals. So that's great. And you played University of Arkansas. Brad McMakin had been there just a couple of years and had already built a really great program. And so I mean, we could go through the minutia of the whole round if you'd like, but I look at what will go down as one of the greatest finishes in the history of college golf.
Yep.
Bronson, who was playing Andrew Landry,
Mm-hmm.
he lost a 3 or 4 up lead, isn't that right?
Yeah, he was 4 up with 5 to play, and I
Right.
remember I lost my match, and Conrad lost his, but we were 4 and 5, so we were first off, and then Andrea won like 8 and 7, and John Hurley won like 6 and 5, and so they were done super early. So we were all done early, and we ran back, and I remember we met Bronson on what would have been, I guess, 14 green, and he lost. Yeah, he lost 14. So he was 4 up. Now he's 3 up. And then he goes on to lose 15, 16, and 17.
Hmm.
And then 18, Andrew Landry hits it right down the middle, and Bronson just sends it dead right into the rough. And we're sitting here going, man. I mean, in some ways, I was like, I don't even care about the national championship anymore. I just want Bronson to be okay, because I don't know how you come back from this. And I remember Andrew Landry hit his shot. It kind of floated up in the wind, and it came up like 40 feet short or so. And 18 at Inverness is not long, and so Bronson probably only had 100 and I don't know 20 yards or so in, but just to a treacherous green and from the rough, where the rough was really thick. And he hit that shot and just landed in the perfect position. And I was up by the green watching it in the air, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be good. And if you go back and watch the video, you can hear me yelling before the ball even lands on the green. And then it literally rolled down to an inch away, and Andrew Landry went on to miss his 40-footer, and we went on to celebrate it.
Yeah,
So
that to me is going to be one of the great memories. And ultimately, it was the first year of match play,
it was.
and Mike Holder was on the golf committee when the committee chose to go to match play. I always wanted it to be medal match. I always thought it'd be better. My 71 beat your 72. I've never gotten resolution on that when no one wants it. But the
Yeah.
truth is, the very first time we went to match play, it was one of the most exciting finishes you could probably ever have in a golf tournament.
It was incredible. It really
Yeah.
was. And I mean, I'm
And you are,
amazed at how many exciting finishes have since also been.
there's been some really good ones.
It's like made for TV, truthfully.
Yeah, and I've got a video in my phone that I show people every once in a while to sort of point to my argument. At Oklahoma State, we had about 4,000 fans in 2011,
Yeah.
and they had all gathered on the 18th hole to watch Sean Einhaus's putt to have to 20-footer to have to send it to against Augusta State in the semis, and he made it, and there was a complete eruption of the loudest roar that may ever exist in college golf. But I contend that if we had all the matches go to 18, that maybe the final match, because you're having all the fans get to the same spot, maybe it would actually finish like that. I mean, more often. And I don't think stroke play is any less exciting when it's head to head than match play. Although every hole in match play has a you either win, tie, or lose the hole. So there's pressure on every hole. I get that. But anyway, just a thought. So before we move on from that championship, you mentioned something because I opened it by saying JT told me that he really felt like you guys could do some good that week. And you said something I'm never going to forget. He casted a high ceiling for our team.
Yeah.
Whether he truly believed it or not, he did it. And he had you guys believing that. So is that his greatest quality as a coach, or what are some of his other great qualities? Because I think JT's a fantastic coach.
JT truly is a fantastic coach. I remember having reservations through the recruiting process because he didn't play golf. And I mean, looking back, I was, gosh, it's been almost 20 years since I stepped on campus. I hate to say that out loud, McGraw.
Yeah.
But nowadays kids are so advanced in where they are with swing coaches and even TrackMan and fitness and things like that I really think one of the things that JT did really well was focus on the basics of life, things that are going to make you successful in whatever venue life takes you into, the business world or professional golf or coaching or whatever it may be. But JT harped on basic things. He wanted you to have a good attitude and he wanted you to work hard, and he wanted you to not make excuses.
Mm.
Really, those were the simplistic things that he harped onto us. And then he had an extremely fair program where, I mean, a guy like me thrived in JT's program because our qualifying from the first qualifier I ever played in to the last was the exact same. We had 2 spots available and 3 coaches picks. And he used to say, I don't know anybody at coaches pick. So if you want to play, go get a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking, like, he even used to say, like, these picks aren't for you. He's like, I don't need the spots for you to qualify. I could pick whoever I want if I want to. These spots are for you to go get. And so for a guy like me, that's how I saw my avenue in. And I still joke with JT to this day, and I'm like 99.9% think I'm pretty sure I'm right. And that is, I did not get picked one time until my senior year in college. And I played up until that point, I probably played 40% or 35% or so of the tournaments, and I played almost all of them my senior year. But I just viewed qualifying as my avenue to get to a tournament. And so I had to figure out how to go qualify. And when I hear, all these kids feel like their coach is picking on them, or not now, because I'm not with CGF anymore, but when I was, I used to say, there is a qualifying spot that you could go and figure out how to get there. And if you beat them, I'm pretty sure coach isn't going to leave you at home. And so I always just viewed that as my avenue, and that was a singular message that came from coach. And I tried to take advantage of that, and I think I did a good job of that.
Well, it also teaches a young kid one other thing, and that is you're not entitled to anything. And if somebody
Yeah.
offers you that spot, go get it. If you don't get it, don't expect a pick. You did not earn the pick. Don't expect it.
Well, and I mean, isn't that how pro golf works, right? Like,
It
they
is
only
how pro
offer
golf.
you, there's no picks in Q school. And so, maybe you could say there's picks now with sponsors exemptions, but that's because people have earned those sponsors exemptions. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I appreciated how simplistic and consistent JT's message was throughout all 5 of my years there.
Well, some of the greatest golf coaches now, I still think it's not a disadvantage to go play for a guy who was an All-American or played the tour or has been, if he's got a background in golf, that's good too. But what JT and a guy like Bruce played some golf, but he wasn't a great player. And Dave Williams at Houston he wasn't even a golfer. So it's possible to not be a golfer and be a great golf coach. I think there are, and I'm not sure who they all are, but there are some professional coaches in NBA and NFL who didn't basically play high school football or basketball. And it's like, I think JT would be a great college basketball coach. He'd be incredible. That's what I think.
I agree. I mean, I think JT would do great in business. I think he would do well wherever he is because he's willing to put in the work. I mean, he was a recruiting machine. He was, like I said, he was consistent with his message. He was fair. If you did the things that he asked of you, you were in his favor in that regard. And so, and if you didn't, then there were consequences, and those consequences were through all the players. It wasn't just like, certain players that he had issues with, but there are a lot of big egos when you get in pro sport or high level sports. And, the ones who really struggled with him were ones who I think, they were struggling with authority. And, but I personally, I loved playing for JT. It was great.
I'm glad you said every bit of that because it's all things that I know and not a lot of people outside know about JT. He's great.
Yeah.
Do you ever consider a coaching career?
It's funny you say that. I considered playing pro golf for about a hot minute. I played my last semester the best, but my big joke is if you want to know how burnout I was on golf, is I was excited about my audit job in the business world. And so I went into PwC working in audit for a couple of years, but about 3 months in, I got asked if I'd had any interest in the Coastal Carolina job. And I talked with some of my mentors about it and was really considering it. And then kind of at the last minute, the plug got pulled and they went in a different direction. and decided not to. But, there's part of me that wonders, I probably really would have enjoyed it. I don't think I would want the lifestyle now. No offense,
Mm.
coach.
Yep.
But I don't think I would have wanted the long-term lifestyle, but I love players and I love golf, and I think I would have enjoyed it for a few years, but I didn't do it.
Okay. You didn't do it, but you were a coach because you
Yeah.
went to work for an organization, a wonderful ministry called College Golf Fellowship. And I've had several guys on here who have been involved with it one way or another, whether it's Webb Simpson as a PGA Tour board member or just different guys that have been on here that have been involved. College Golf Fellowship has been a part of my life since 1998 when Brad Payne and Stephen Bunn were walking around at a college golf tournament in South Carolina. And I don't know who pointed in my direction, but they came and they were, you want to go to a Bible study tonight? Oh, sure I do. Who are you people? And they were a two-man wrecking crew at the time. That was it. But
Yeah.
tell me about your college golf fellowship experience. I know you were there many, many years and did a great job. And I got to see you at a
Yeah.
lot of tournaments.
Well, I got introduced to College Golf Fellowship through a guy named Seth Thornton. I don't know if you remember that name. You probably
Mm-hmm.
don't. He played at North Texas, and he had come to Christ through College Golf Fellowship and went on to go into ministry in Houston. He was a good player, and I was playing in the Houston City Am. And Seth just told me to, hey, be on the lookout for this great ministry. And I had become a Christian through Young Life in high school, and so I just had heard about it, and I was expecting to learn about it. And I remember October my freshman year, Brad Payne came down, and basically it was as simplistic as, hey, we're going to do this retreat in December at Ben Crane's house, and it's going to be at his house at Vaquero, and there's going to be like 50 guys there. And I'm like, well, and it's free. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm
I
going to
can do
go.
that.
I'm going to go there. And I went, and who else was there other than Mike McGraw? And so Mike McGraw was a part of many of my first College Golf Fellowship retreat experiences. But I remember a guy named Todd Wagner got up and he taught the Bible in a way that I had just never heard it. And man, it floored me and it drew me in. And I developed a real close relationship with Brad Payne that week, and then went on to have a good relationship with Marcus Jones and Steve Burdick and Stephen Bunn. And I pretty much just through the rest of my college career just plugged into pretty much anything College Golf Fellowship did, and then took it upon myself to start things on our team. We had some great guys on our team. We did Bible study within our team. We roped guys into going to retreats together, and it was truly life-changing for me, in that I had a very immature faith in college, but I learned how to, or really what it meant to live out my faith. And I give a lot of credit to College Golf Fellowship for that. And, specifically Brad Payne and his mentorship and just friendship with me, but also the people that College Golf Fellowship put me around. I learned so much from the great teachers that I got to sit under and listen to. And I'm just eternally grateful for them. And so I went into public accounting for a couple of years. And I was doing stuff on the side with University of Houston and Rice and HBU in Houston. And then College Golf Fellowship came and asked if I had any interest in joining them. So I left after 2 years in public accounting, and I joined College Golf Fellowship as the Houston rep. And I was here for like just over 10 years with them until this past 2 Septembers ago when I left. But man, I love College Golf Fellowship, and I love all those guys, and I'm just eternally grateful for that ministry.
Well, I am too. And one of the things I tell people when they ask me about the ministry is that, what makes it such a good ministry. And what I think it is these ministers, these young men that are going to come and speak into these young players. They come on your campus, but they don't force it on a kid. They develop relationships. It's the most relational ministry I think I've ever seen. And so by the time the kid is ready to maybe delve into it a little bit more, he's already best buds with this guy. And you guys are masters at it. You were when you were in there.
Appreciate that. It's a
Yeah,
great.
really, really good at that. Current occupation. Tell me exactly what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so 2 years. 2 years ago, I joined a independent RIA, registered investment advisor here in Houston, and I'm the director of business development for them. We essentially manage people's wealth situations for predominantly high net worth to ultra high net worth individuals. And so I come alongside families who've been given the unique responsibility of stewarding a lot of resources, and we try to help them do that well.
Now, you don't have a heck of a lot of college golf coaches in there, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I didn't
haven't
think so.
prospected in the college golf coaching world in a while.
I didn't think so. So I know you still play golf. I know you also compete.
Yeah.
Just a couple of days ago, you played with one of my players, Johnny Kiefer, in the U.S. Amateur qualifying. So talk to me about your desire to still want to play the game, and tell me about Johnny. You got to see Johnny up close for 36 holes.
Yeah, it's funny. Johnny and I had some great conversation about this, but what's interesting is I actually feel like I'm a better golfer now than I was in college, and I don't ever practice. That's not a lie. I literally don't practice. And I was telling Johnny that I feel like one of the reasons that I feel this way is because I now feel like I can bat 1,000 every time I play golf at making good decisions. And I think that if I do, I don't have to play perfectly to be able to put together a good golf score. And I think in college, I mean, I was way better physically, could hit way more shots than I ever can now. I mean, I don't hit it near as far, and I don't have near the amount of shots, but I'm so much smarter now. And I was talking with Johnny about this, about how I feel like when I look back, I took so many unnecessary risks, and I really try to play a lot of boring golf now, and just think my way. I think Decade has been, I don't use Decade personally, but I think the thought process behind Decade is brilliant, because in a lot of ways, Decade is just showing you kind of the reality of your situation, and in what is the not the safest bet, that's not the right one, but like the appropriate lines and clubs and into different shots. And I just relate to that so much now. And I've been able to, keep my game up fairly well. And I still enjoy getting to play, but man, it's fun playing with a guy like Johnny, because when he hit driver and I hit driver, I was probably about 40 yards behind him, and at least. And he's got a great game. He obviously knows what he's doing, and I just love walking with guys like that, because they're just at a formative time in their life, and I hope to be a positive and helpful voice into guys like that lives. I know they have many voices, and I've just seen guys that have good voices around them often end up in a better place than guys who don't have good voices around them. So
Totally agree with that. And I think Johnny's a smart enough kid that he listens. And I try everything I can to recruit kids that will listen and are open to learning. And as a coach, I have to be the same. I have to listen and be open to learning. But I'm glad you got to play with him. I don't think you'll ever hit it as far as he does, because you're going the other direction now.
I am going the other. It feels like I'm going fast.
Oh, well, that's okay. Well, listen, hey, I've really enjoyed this. This has been about 50 minutes of just kind of reconnecting. You got to talk about some really fun times in college golf, and we got to reconnect. It's been too long since I've seen you. I recruit in Houston. Surely we can have dinner together sometime.
Let's do it. Big 12 match play, right? Y'all still going to Houston Oaks?
We are. You'll have to come up there. I'll buy your dinner.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Thanks,
Matt, thanks so much for absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me today.